This is the story of a UN agency for refugees and why the state of Israel wants to destroy it. Israel's parliament recently passed a law banning UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees, declaring it a, quote, terrorist organization, prohibiting it from operating in Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the occupied West Bank. The legislation will impact millions of Palestinian refugees. But in Gaza, as the primary agency delivering aid during a genocide, a banned UNRWA means almost certain starvation for more than 2 million Palestinians.
People are dying of hunger. People are dying of thirst. But to cut off UNRWA at this moment is one of the most morally depraved things that I can imagine.
So what exactly is UNRWA? And why is Israel so intent on shutting it down? When Israel was created in 1948, it forcibly expelled 750,000 Palestinians from their homes and land.
The United Nations responded by creating a political agency to find a durable solution, as well as to provide for them health, education, and shelter in the form of UNRWA.
By the 1950s, UNRWA was operating in 58 Palestinian refugee camps across the region. More than half of those camps were in the West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem. UNRWA didn't just offer these new refugees food and shelter. It gave them access to education, healthcare, and jobs by hiring 99% of its staff from the local refugee population.
This is where they're employed as doctors, as teachers.
UNRWA was supposed to be a temporary fix until the Palestinian refugees returned home, a right that was enshrined under UN Resolution 194. Now, 76 years later, the refugee tent camps of the 50s have transformed into permanent fixtures, and UNRWA has remained the primary service provider. In the West Bank alone, 96 UNRWA schools educate 45,000 students. Before the genocide in Gaza, UNRWA operated 278 schools for 290,000 students. It ran 22 medical centers and provided food assistance to 1.1 million people. There are over 6 million Palestinian refugees living around the world. If they were to return, as is their legal right, Israel's Jewish majority would come to an end.
Israel has made a systematic effort to attack UNRWA in an attempt to dismantle the right of Palestinian refugees, as well as the right to return.
Over the years, Israeli authorities have repeatedly pushed for UNRWA's dismantling, accusing it of promoting anti-Semitism in its schools and perpetuating the narrative that it's a front for Hamas.
Today's briefing will focus on UNRWA, the Hamas front organization from which over a dozen states have suspended funding. During its genocide in Gaza, it killed over 200 UN staff in airstrikes and bombed 70% of UNRWA-run schools. But it didn't stop there. Israel accused a number of UNRWA staff of participating in the October 7th attacks. Despite Israel not presenting any evidence to back its claims, the world listened. And within a matter of hours, and without any investigation into the Israeli allegations, a number of countries jumped to pull their funding from the agency, including the United States, UNRWA's top donor. And even though Israel's accusations have largely been debunked, the claim that UNRWA was somehow associated with the October 7th attacks was the final blow that Israel needed. And it has become the central claim at the heart of the new Israeli law to ban UNRWA.
UNRWA's mission has to end.
So for Israel, the agency that is sustaining the lives of these refugees is perpetuating a problem Israel wishes would disappear.
Why does the UN allow UNRWA to perpetuate this lie that there are more than 5 million Palestinian refugees who possess a fictional right of return?
Now with the genocide in Gaza, a unique opportunity has arisen for Israel to do away with the very refugees themselves, take more Palestinian land, and dismantle the organization keeping Palestinian refugees alive once and for all.
ואי אפשר יהיה לנצח את המלחמה אם אנחנו לא נשמיד את אונר"א. וההשמדה הזו חייבת להתחיל מיד.
UNRWA is an obstacle to the ethno-nationalist plans of Israel, and now sees its opportunity with the wholesale destruction of Gaza of expediting that, and one of the things standing in their way is the survival of UNRWA.
Banning UNRWA would collapse the agency's life-sustaining infrastructure. impacting close to 1 million Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem who rely on UNRWA for jobs and services. And it would affect more than 2.3 million people in Gaza who, during this genocide, have become completely dependent on UNRWA for food and shelter.
There is no humanitarian agency in the UN or in the world that can do what UNRWA does, that has the infrastructure that UNRWA has. You'd have to create UNRWA and give it a new name.
While Israel hopes that by getting rid of UNRWA, it will get rid of the Palestinian refugee issue as a whole, the undeniable reality is that the rights of Palestinian refugees, including the right to return to their homeland, are inalienable. And their rights won't just disappear if UNRWA disappears.
The rights of Palestinian refugees, wherever they are, will remain, regardless.
Palestinian refugees, the right to return and their belief in their homeland and their identity exists with or without a UN agency that exists to provide them means.